Greetings, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Monsters Den. I'm your host, Pete Pardo, and my co-host on the other end, Mr. Chris Alo, trying to make himself look a little darker there.
I actually look better in the dark, so let me make it a little darker.
So today we have part 2 at our look at some of our favorite werewolf films, because of course it's October, it's the month of Halloween, and we're trying to bring you as many videos as we can this month to celebrate horror and monster films for the month of October for Halloween as we work our way up towards the 31st. So again, this is part 2 of our werewolf themed show. We've got another, each one of us is bringing you trilogy of terror, a triple feature of werewolf terror and frights. I'm going to have Chris kick us off with his first choice of the day.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Pete. Thanks as always for having me on. It's always a pleasure. My first pick I caught in the theater. It was in the second run theater at the long departed Silver Cinemas in Poughkeepsie, New York, and it apparently came out. I forgot it came out in 2010. And it's the Wolfman, starring Benicio del Toro and Anthony Hopkins, and it's really good. It's a bigger budget werewolf film. Great special effects from Rick Baker, who won the Academy Award for it. Score from Danny Elfman, directed by Joe Johnston, who did like Jurassic Park 3 and the first Captain America movie. Of course, he was a designer. He designed famously the Boba Fett costume for George Lucas, and it's a gothic period piece. I think it's like the 1800s, and without giving too much away, yeah, Benicio del Toro gets bit by some creature, and yeah, spoiler alert, he turns into the Wolfman, and it's got really good effects. There is some CGI, but they do it fairly well. I enjoy it. This is the director's cut, and there's alternate endings on the Blu-ray. It actually, I knew it didn't do well, but until I looked it up, I didn't realize how much of a box office bomb it was. Apparently, it made $142 million at the box office, which is nothing to sneeze at.
Right,
It's really not.
Yeah.
I mean, especially by even 10 years later, that's a lot of money. The problem is when they were making the movie, Joe Johnston apparently signed on to make the movie in, I think it was like 8 weeks' time. But then when the studio saw his cut, they had a ton of reshoots. So the budget just kept getting bigger and bigger. Long story short, I think the production costs was $150 million. And it only took in $142 million at the box office. But production costs do not include all the advertising. So, it's the mathematical equation I always learned was you got to double the production cost to make a profit. So this thing just lost a boatload of money.
Yeah.
But don't let that scare you. It's a fun. I shouldn't say fun, but it's an entertaining movie if you like gothic horror. Like, to me, it reminded me very much of Curse of the Werewolf with Oliver Reed. It's very gothic. It's like a modern day Hammer horror film. So if that's the sort of stuff you like, I would absolutely recommend The Wolfman.
Yeah, I agree with you. I saw it in the theaters. I went with my wife and another couple that we know, and we walked out. We loved it. We thought it was great.
Yeah.
Looking back, watching it a few times, looking back, I think all the reshoots and re-edits and they kept messing around with the script. I don't know if that did it any favors. I think originally they wanted to stick to and play it pretty close to the original Wolfman from Universal, right? And you can tell when you watch the movie, they kept a lot of the storyline the same, but then they went into these weird tangents that really never happened in the original film. And you have to wonder if they would have just stuck to the original plan, that it would have fared a little better. But I think the werewolf makeup was fantastic.
Looks really good. Yeah.
Really good. It had just the right amount, a little bit of gore, right? The sets looked amazing. I dig it. I think out of all the Universal remakes that they've done since they decided they were going to do this,
Oh, that's a good
it's
point.
the most successful because The Mummy is kind of a
The
mess.
moment is terrible.
The Dracula film is actually not too bad, but it doesn't follow like the story at all. So,
Right.
I don't know. I'm a fan, but I love werewolf films. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely think it's good. I definitely think it's good. All right. So, 1973, The Boy Who Cried Werewolf.
Nice.
All right. So this is a kind of cool little film, which I remember seeing back in the day on Channel 9, WOR, whatever, whenever they would show
Yeah, good horror
horror
movies
films
during
in
the day,
Europe.
sure.
Exactly. So this actually stars Kerwin Matthews, who some may remember played Sinbad in The Seventh Voyage of Sinbad. And he also was in the Gulliver movie, right? So he was a pretty popular actor back in the 50s and 60s, and then I guess didn't have much to do in the 70s as a little older. So he actually plays a father of this young boy who I think is like maybe 8 or 9, something like that. And he is freshly divorced from his wife, but they still kind of operate as a family somewhat. Anyway, long story short is with the divorce, he winds up and going buying like a little cabin, a little house out in the woods. And one night he's out, wandering around the woods, just enjoying the evening. And he comes across a guy who was a werewolf. He gets bitten. Okay, they wind up killing the guy who's the werewolf, and then lo and behold, he then becomes a werewolf shortly thereafter. And the thing is, he always seems to he has his boy a lot. He's takes him on the weekends, and he always winds up turning into the werewolf when he's around the kid, but he still has his faculties a little bit, so he winds up leaving the house and just ditching the kid and going off and killing people, turning into the werewolf. Well, a couple of instances, the son sees what's going on and knows he's the werewolf, because now all of a sudden all these deaths are happening around the town and all this kind of stuff, and the police force is wondering, like, is there a crazy guy on the loose, is there an animal out on the loose? And so he's trying to tell, no, it's like it's my dad, he's a werewolf, but nobody believes him. So that's The Boy Who Cried Werewolf. It's called that because he knows who the werewolf is, but
Right.
nobody will believe him. But then in the end, when they finally, without giving too much away, he then realizes, I know my father's got this thing going on here, but I don't want him to die. I don't want them to kill him. It's like, can't we just sit down and talk to him about it in the middle of the day? So it's a pretty cool film. Yeah, the acting's not the best in it, but I think the werewolf makeup is pretty neat, although you can tell by the back that basically what you get, it's kind of like the old Universal stuff. So he's fully dressed, but of course he's got the werewolf hair and
Right.
everything around the head and the hands, but then he's still wearing the sweater and the sports jacket and everything like that, running around the woods. And he does a lot of like exaggerated this stuff when he turns, and then whenever he's a werewolf and you hear him doing the werewolf scream, it sounds really bizarre. It doesn't sound like a wolf at all, but otherwise a fun film. And, as like a kind of like a B movie from the 70s,
Right.
you can't really go wrong. It's fun.
I'm sure it's got tons of that 70s charm. I know before we went on, I mentioned our buddy Vince mentioned that one to me recently, and I forgot all about it because I've never seen it. So I just recently ordered that Blu-ray because, yeah, it's one of those ones. I'm like, oh man, it's a 70s werewolf movie that I've never seen, and all those movies do. They have that, that period to me. Pete, just have that charm of the makeup and everything. So I'm like, I gotta have it for the collection.
Yeah, I love films from the 70s, and
Yeah.
the horror films from the 70s are just great. So yeah, absolutely.
All right.
All right, what do you got next?
All right, my pick is another new one, and actually it's technically a twofer. This one is, I think it's from 2016, although I didn't actually watch it until a year ago, and it's Wolf Cop, and I really enjoyed this one. It's basically there's a police officer in Canada whose name Lou Garou, which I did not know until recently, but it's French for werewolf.
Yep.
That joke was totally over my head. But he's a drunk, and he's a slob, and he's a nice guy, and not a nice guy, and does a shitty job of being a cop, and nobody likes him, and he's out on a call, and he gets attacked, and wakes up with a big pentagram carved into his chest, and sure enough, he starts turning into a wolf. But he remains in the cop outfit and remains and keeps some of his intelligence, and it's fun. It's a fun werewolf movie, kind of like more schlockier version of like almost like a RoboCop. I mean, he goes out and does his job protecting the public. There is a ton of gore. There's a ton of great special effects. I mean, he looks awesome in the suit and the mask. There's some great nudity, which I think has become a lost art. In the 80s, in the early 80s, you could get away with blood and nudity, and then MPAA made everybody get away from the blood. Now blood's okay. After Walking Dead, have as much gore as you want, but there's like never nudity in movies anymore, which I don't, especially horror movies. I don't get that. But there's some really good stuff in Wolf Cop. It's got a pretty big ending. Overall, I really liked it, so much so that I recently purchased another Wolf Cop, which is the direct sequel, brings back the cast and the creative team. It's good, but not as good as the first one. It's a much more ambitious storyline with, like, I was gonna say rubber creatures, but they're really not. They're sort of like these lizard creatures that take over people and sort of pop out of their bodies. But they're not rubber, but they really look like rubber. To me, they look like those stupid little finger puppets, those green little lizard finger puppets, like coming out of people's stomachs. It's just way too ambitious for the budget that they had. I mean, I think I bought this shipped off Amazon for like $6. So you can't go wrong. I mean, I had a really good roast beef sandwich for lunch today, and that cost me $11. So this is the whole movie loaded with extras. So it's still worth your money. I would definitely pick it up. If you can only get one, then go with the original. But they're both really they're worth checking out.
Yeah, I have the first one. I haven't seen the second one. The first one is just a classic modern day horror comedy. I mean, it's just
very fun.
One of the best. Yeah, one of the best.
Very funny. The second one has some good laughs, not as many as the first one, but still, I still chuckled a few times.
So I'm going to do mine a little out of order just because I think we got to go from one great werewolf horror comedy to another, and that's the Spanish film Attack of the Werewolves. All right, I don't know how well we can see that here, but
I can definitely see it, and I can see it's one of the European ones. I think it's got the little age right on the bottom there.
Yep. So this also, I believe, the Attack of the Werewolves is the European title. I think Game of the Werewolves is what they call when they released it here. So this is one, if you like Shaun of the Dead, okay, which is the great horror zombie, what do you call it? The comedy zombie film. This is clever like that. This is a Spanish film. It's all, at least the Blu-ray that I have, is all in Spanish with English subtitles. It does not matter. It doesn't deter from the film at all. It is a lot of fun. It's basically it centers in a really tiny farm village in Spain. It's out in the middle of nowhere. And this young guy, he's probably in his like 20s or something like that. He comes back to visit the old village where he grew up. And he's a writer now. He's kind of like a semi-famous writer. So he comes back to spend some time in his old house where he grew up. So he can have some time to himself to write. Okay. So he comes with his little dog, and he winds up meeting up with his uncle and his former best friend and all this kind of stuff. Well, little by little, you start to wonder that there's some weird things going on in the village. So as it turns out, there's an old curse that was laid down on the village, and someone in the town got the curse of the werewolf like 100 years before. So they've actually been keeping this werewolf locked up in a barn. And like the whole thing is until the blood of the family gets fed to the werewolf. The family that was cursed is actually his family, the guy, the writer. And so until the werewolf gets fed someone from that family, from the lineage, the curse will never end, right? So, and this werewolf will never die. So they've been kind of kept locked up in this barn for all these years. And finally, so he comes to town. He's got to be of a certain age and all that kind of stuff. So the plan is they're going to capture him and feed him to the werewolf, which of course doesn't sit too well with him. But I mean, and then, you know, his agent winds up showing up out of the blue, and they become like this Abbott and Costello comedy team. It's a blast. The gags are hilarious. The werewolf costume, and then of course it's not just one, because it is called Attack of the Werewolves for a reason. So the one werewolf winds up getting out, winds up biting half the town. The half the town turns into werewolves. It's this whole free for all. The werewolf costumes are great. There's plenty of gore in it. It's funny as all hell. It's well acted, very well shot. I mean, it looks like this was done on a fairly nice sized budget. And it's one of those films that I think has gotten overlooked by many people. So if you're a werewolf fan and you love the kind of the comedy horror films, kind of like what we just talked about, Werewolf Cop, Shaun of the Dead, or Wolf Cop, sorry, films like that, or Zombieland, that sort of thing, I think you will have a blast with this film. It's a lot of fun, cool looking werewolves too, real badass, and yeah, check it out.
I was going to say, Pete, that's another one. I never even heard of it.
You definitely will love it. You definitely should order this. I think you will totally love it.
I was just going to say, never even an inkling, but yeah, I'm sold. I'm going to go order. Does it matter, the U.S. one or the foreign one?
I don't know. You know, the U.S. one is called Game of the Werewolves, and I don't know whether that's dubbed or not. The Spanish version, Attack of the Werewolves. There's no dubbing. It's all subtitles.
Right.
But I don't think it matters. I mean, it's really enjoyable to watch. Yeah, it's really good.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm going to order that tonight.
It's a lot of fun. I think you will totally love it. A lot of fun.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, I definitely love fun werewolves, and this one, yeah, I think it's fun because it definitely falls in the so bad it's good category. This is from I think it's 1974, and this is the DVD calls it The Werewolf Woman. I have seen it off 35 millimeter film several times. I know the U.S. print was called Legend of the Wolf Woman. It always cracks me up because this DVD is from the 2000s, and it's totally false advertising because this is an actress named Susie Lorraine who lived in New York and starred in one of my buddies' low-budget horror movies. So, Werewolf Woman was shot in 1974. She probably wasn't even born yet. She's a very, very pretty blonde lady. The lady that's in the movie is a pretty blonde lady, but why they did that, I have no idea. But long story short, there's this Italian 70s, werewolf movie where the woman sort of has visions of turning into a werewolf. There's tons of sex, tons of nudity. I mean, literally the best part is in the beginning of the movie because our main star is completely naked, but in a werewolf costume. So, she's got the nose and the fangs, and then she's completely naked, but they glued hair all over her naked body. But they left certain spots, so, with enough skin. It's hysterical. It's so bad. I read how the director, I think, I can't remember his name, some Italian guy, he wanted to create a serious movie. And apparently, all over the world, this thing was laughed at cinemas. But it made money, I guess, because it was released all over. But here it is, Reno di Silvestro. Because even though it's a terrible movie, I had to buy it again on Blu-ray to look at the terribleness in HD. And it's the very look at that. And it's a different cover on that one. On the inside of the Blu-ray, but it is if you like bad movies, this is for you. If lots of sex and violence and nudity, and it's got that awesome 70s charm, but the Euro charm, of course, Hammer was never that trashy, and this is this is sleazy and trashy, but definitely so bad you will. The dialogue is just so ridiculous you'll be laughing out loud. And yeah, that's my pick. Werewolf Woman, aka Legend of the Wolf Woman. I looked it up online. There's like 5 other titles. It just Amazon Werewolf Woman.
That's probably worth checking out. It sounds along the lines of like Vampire Lovers or something like that, right?
Oh yes, but way sleazier and way worse. Where Vampire Lovers is way more competent.
I never heard of that film. That's weird. That's it's not many werewolf films that have like escaped me over the years. So Jesus.
Yeah, this is a good one. This is definitely worth checking out.
Were you able to see Bad Moon? I know you said it was on one of the channels.
No, yes, it's on Shudder, and I think I have like 130 movies in my queue. I did not get a chance yet to watch Bad Moon, but I absolutely want to.
Cool.
Well, the second Wolf Cop one was my werewolf pick of the week. That's what I watched 2-3 days ago.
Cool. There you go. All right, so I'm going to go with kind of a classic of the genre here from 1981, Joe Dante's The Howling. This is a twofer. It's got The Howling and The Howling 2, which are probably the 2 best, right? I'm trying to remember, was the second or the third one with Sybil Danning?
Second one. It's funny because if we did some doubles or whatever, I grabbed The Howling 3, the marsupials.
There you go.
But Howling 2, Your Sister is a Werewolf.
Yep.
With Sybil Danning and Christopher Lee.
That's the one, right? So I got both of them here. Yeah, you know, the funniest thing about not to get off the topic, but at the very end, I think during the credits of Howling 2, they show the same scene of Sybil Danning ripping off her top like over and over again, right? I mean, it just never ends.
That's the best part of the movie. Howling 2 is terrible. Yeah. The first one is amazing, but God, that second one is just awful.
Yeah. Well, the first one is a classic, all right? So, of course, that's this guy right here. There we go. And just when you talk about like modern day werewolf films, most people cite American Werewolf in London as probably there you go. Yep. Awesome. Oh, great. Very cool. That's top of the line. I think The Howling always sits right underneath it. I do know people who like The Howling better, actually.
I have actually gone over the years. I've gone back and forth over which one I think is better, and it's really tough.
It is. I think American Werewolf in London is a better made film. The comedic elements work really well, but I think that The Howling is just so good, and I love the werewolf makeup in The Howling, and there's some pretty seriously scary scenes in it. It's got Dee Wallace, who's always great, right? She plays a really good role, and I just like the fact that again, it kind of plays on this whole community that has like this, behind the scenes, this curse going on that they try to keep quiet, right? And I dig the whole premise of the film, and the ending is fantastic, right? It's just a shame that it spawned so many sequels, and basically they're all terrible, right? For the most part.
Yeah. I mean, Howling 3, it is terrible. It's one of it's like werewolf movie. It's terrible, but I like it. But Howling 2 is just terrible. Period. It's just, and I know there's a Howling 4 that I've seen, and I can't remember a thing. And I don't know. Is there a Howling 5? There might be.
I think they made like 8 of them, to be honest with you. And I don't know. Was it the 4th one? There's a 4th one, which is almost like when they're all like a bunch of people are trapped in a house, and one by one they all start getting bumped off because someone's a werewolf in the house. I don't know. I don't remember which one. Is it the 4th or the 5th one? I don't know. It's kind of like,
that's more than I thought, but definitely that's like the Amityville franchise. There was must be 20 of those movies.
They just did another. They just did another one.
Did they really?
Yeah.
Holy cow!
It's on my wife. It's on demand right now.
Wow.
Why? Right.
Right. Yeah. Well, I guess there's some completist out there who's like, I got to see this. I got to have this.
Yeah. As bad as they are. Yeah. Well. So there you have it, everybody. 6 more werewolf. Well, actually, you got a little bit more than that. You got 7 recommendations here today. some very cool werewolf films. I've got more up my sleeve. If Chris wants to do another one, we could talk about it. If you guys want to see it, we could definitely do more werewolf films. But I think I also want to get Chris to join me on some other Monsters Den topics.
Sure.
So I'll throw a couple of them at you right now, and you can take a pick. So Dario Argento.
Okay, that's a good one.
Lucio Fulci.
Oh, that one's very near and dear to my heart.
Yep. And how about I'm drawing a blank on the other big Italian director.
Mario Bava?
Mario Bava, that's it. So
Yeah.
I'll tell you what. So why don't we do an Italian horror film show maybe next week? Pick 3 of your favorite Italian horror films from those 3 guys, one from each.
Okay.
Is that doable?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, sounds good. All right. So so next week it'll be some recommendations from Bava, Fulci, and Argento. So that's what we got coming on next week on the Monsters Den. So stay tuned for that. Visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter. Of course, we're here on YouTube all the damn time. If you like what you see here and feel like contributing to the channel, we got a little Ko-Fi link in the video description. Also, there's a link to our merch page and our website. So check it all out. So, Chris, we'll see you very soon on the Monster.
Yes, thanks as always. We'll see you guys later.
All right, everybody, take care. Have a good one. And remember, keep those lights on. See you next time.